All right, want to welcome everyone here this morning. We're here to make an announcement about leadership. About 6 months ago, I announced that I was going to put the state's checkbook online. So I took $408 billion of spending going back the past 7 years, everything from $2 for a pack of pencils to millions of dollars for road contracts and everything in between, and put it online on ohiocheckbook.com, which is the first of its kind online transparency website. We've gotten very positive feedback from citizens and taxpayers throughout the state. We've had over 220,000 searches on ohiocheckbook.com. And so I said to my staff, I think we might be onto something here. And so we talked about how we can expand this, and we decided that we were going to offer it to the schools and the cities and the counties throughout the state as well. So about 2 months ago, I sent a letter out to every school board member and city councilman, county commissioner, township trustee throughout the state of Ohio, offering to them the opportunity to post their local government or school district finances online. We sent out 18,000 letters to all these officials. It represents about 4,000 local governments throughout the state of Ohio. And I'm proud to announce this morning that the Mentor Public Schools is the first school district in Northeast Ohio and one of the first school districts in the entire state of Ohio to volunteer to put their finances online. Now, in this process, there's going to be leaders and there's going to be followers. There's going to be certain school districts and cities and counties that might lag, and it might take them a couple years to make the right decision. But in the same time, there's going to be certain school districts and communities that say, you know what, the taxpayers have a right to know how the money's being spent. We're simply the stewards of that money. Let's empower taxpayers to see how the money's being spent. We're proud of how we manage the finances here. And that today is what the Mentor Public Schools are doing. That's what's happening here with the school board, the superintendent, and everyone who works in the Mentor Public Schools. And I should say that as a product of public schools right here in Northeast Ohio, I'm proud to see what you're doing. My mother worked in the public schools for over 20 years. My sister currently works at Brush High School as a school social worker there. And I think what you're doing is very important for not only instilling confidence in the school system when the public looks at the school system, but also simply it's an inspiration for, I think, communities and school districts throughout Lake County and throughout Northeast Ohio. Because you better believe when I leave Mentor today, I'm going to be traveling all throughout the state of Ohio talking about the Mentor City Schools, talking about what you're doing today. And when I go to school districts in the Toledo area, and the Cincinnati area, and the Dayton area, and in Appalachia, and throughout the state of Ohio, I'm going to be talking about the Mentor Public School System. I'm going to be talking about the Mentor schools. I'm going to be talking about what you're doing here as far as being leaders. Now what's going to happen is over the next year or two, slowly school districts and communities here in Lake County and throughout the state, they're going to find themselves being surrounded by other school districts and cities that already have their finances online. And I think what you're doing today is serving as an inspiration and a motivation for your peer school districts and other communities in Lake County to do the right thing. I've been asked a lot by media and by folks throughout the state why I'm doing this. And the answer is simple. I believe that taxpayers have a right to know how their tax money is being spent. And I think one of the best ways to make government more efficient is to empower taxpayers to hold public officials accountable. I also believe very strongly in the concept of making government as limited in size and scope as possible, but also making it as efficient as possible. And one of the reasons we're excited about this partnership is we think this will be a great tool for the Mentor Public Schools to use as far as running the school system as efficiently as possible. Think about it for a second. Right now, if you wanted to look at a like-sized school district in Cincinnati, in the Dayton area, in the Columbus area, in Toledo area, and see what they're spending money on or how they're spending it or what vendors they're using, it's impossible to see it. My hope, my vision, is that this will be a tool to making good decisions in the school district, because a year or 2 years from now, I envision you being able to see all these other school districts of like size throughout the state of Ohio. And if we see in other parts of the state that there's a common vendor, for instance, that you're using here in the Mentor schools, that 50 other school districts are using throughout the state of Ohio, maybe we can create a bulk buying consortium or some type of group that we can use to get better prices on behalf of the taxpayers, the constituents here in the district. And if we could save money that that way. Maybe it's a little more funds that can be used to buy another computer for a classroom or put another teacher in a classroom or to pay for important services here in the school district. Another way that we envision this being used is for business analytics, business intelligence, and budgeting. We've already heard from fiscal clerks and fiscal officers throughout the state of Ohio that are using it for their own budgeting on a monthly and annual basis. So we're excited and bullish about the opportunities that OhioCheckbook.com can provide. And I want to emphasize that this is a partnership. You've heard me a couple times use the word partnership. This isn't something that we're trying to stuff down the throats of the school districts or the cities or the counties. We're offering it voluntarily, and we're offering it as a partnership. And we did not make the Mentor schools do this. The school board and the superintendent and the chief financial officer here in the school, these men and women should be applauded because they're volunteering to do this. They're raising their hand and saying, you know what, we think this is the right thing to show the employees here in the district, the students, the teachers, and the taxpayers throughout the community how the money's being spent here. Let me introduce the folks in attendance with us today. The school board members, Thomas Tuttle, president. So thank you for being a leader. We really appreciate it, and thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Sally Miller. Sally. Mary Brenner. Virginia Jesselnick. Are you related to Rich by any chance? Or I know it's a big family, so he's a friend of mine. And William Shaw. Could not make it. All right, 4 for 5. And now I'd like to introduce the superintendent. And I will tell you that what Matthew Milner is doing here today is really setting an example for other superintendents throughout the state of Ohio. We have 600 plus school districts in this state, and you better believe I'm going to be using his name and the Mentor City Schools logo and namesake to talk about leadership throughout the state, to talk about what other school superintendents should be doing throughout the state of Ohio. So thank you for being a leader, and thank you for having me here this morning.
Thanks for being here. We really appreciate you launching this here.
Yeah, no problem. You want to say a couple words?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
go for it.
On behalf of the Board of Education and our employees, I appreciate the turnout this morning. I appreciate the program that Josh Mandel is putting together because I do think it speaks to the transparency, something that Mr. Wilson and his office have been putting out there for quite some time, and this is just one more feather in our cap in terms of taking a leadership role in education, and certainly finances are a big part of that. So we are very excited that you're launching this initiative here. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do you want to say a couple words? Or?
Yes.
All right. The man is going to be
He'll
using
never
this.
miss an opportunity to speak.
Well, first, Josh, thank you for coming to Mentor today to
Please.
recognize us. I followed your efforts for quite some time and have been very supportive of the whole concept of being accountable to the taxpayers and the notion, it's an old-fashioned term, but full disclosure. Mm-hmm. And we began to do this in 2005 in a less sophisticated way by posting our monthly financial statements on our website that included a list of vendors. The opportunity for us to have an interactive tool and do some of the things you said as far as comparing, benchmarking, and looking to leverage volume purchasing is something we look forward to. I've come to understand the responsibility we have at all levels of government to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, but even more importantly, to be fully accountable for every single dollar we spend. It's not our money, it's the taxpayers' money. And I think your OhioCheckbook.com initiative is a wonderful tool and something we're proud to be the first in Northeast Ohio to sign on and implement. And it's very important to us that as an early implementer to recognize that your office is funding this initiative and providing the tools we need to create the data transfer needed without any cost to us locally. So your support of the program at the local level by helping us implement it is greatly appreciated. So we're excited for this opportunity and look forward to showing others how well it can work.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. I'm in no hurry, so I'm glad to open up for questions. It's actually nice that we got to do this morning. I got to change diapers this morning, so because we still live here in the Cleveland area. My wife and I, when I was originally elected state treasurer the first time in 2010, we had this conversation about possibly moving to Columbus, but my family's here and Alana's family's here. And now we have a 2-year-old Rosie, and then we have a baby boy who's Judah, who's 8 months old. And so we decided that we wanted our kids to grow up around their grandparents, and so we believe in Northeast Ohio, and are just strong supporters of the community. And so this was a bonus to be able to do this in Mentor this morning. I'm glad to open up to any questions.
And a Beechwood grad.
Yes.
We got a couple.
Yeah, please. What's your name?
My name is Matt. I'm with the News Herald.
Oh, great.
Local paper.
Yep. Thanks for being here.
Is there, for the Mentor Schools budget, is this something that's on there now? Like people go on there today and it's already up there? Or is this coming in the next couple weeks? Or?
Good question. So it's not up there now. Our hope is to have it up and running sometime in the August timeframe. The direction that I've given to my staff is to ensure that we do this well before we do it quickly. So we're going to prioritize accuracy and doing this responsibly over doing it quickly. The last thing we want to do is post anything that's inaccurate. And so we're going to work in a thoughtful, methodical way with Mr. Wilson and others to make sure that the information is first and foremost accurate. And secondly, it's presented in a way that's easy to search, easy to navigate for taxpayers, for citizens throughout the community. So we took $400 billion of spending when I did this with the state's checkbook. But one of the variables we had on our side was one uniform accounting network. So in the state of Ohio, whether it's the governor's office, the state treasurer's office, a large agency like the Ohio Department of Transportation, or a small agency like the dental board or the cosmetology board, when they go and buy pencils and paper and office supplies, it gets coded the same way in what we call OAKS, which is the Ohio Administrative Knowledge System. It's essentially a uniform accounting network for state agencies throughout the state of Ohio. Not so with the 3,962 local governments here in the state of Ohio. So while we had a uniform accounting network with the state, what we're dealing with the school districts and the local governments is a little different, because we're dealing with hundreds of different accounting networks. So we may have a large county like Cuyahoga County or Franklin County or Hamilton County, which may be on a very advanced, intricate accounting system. And we learned recently that there are certain townships in the state of Ohio that are still doing some of their accounting on legal pads. And then you got everything in between. Fortunately, the school districts are on a uniform system. What's the name of it, Frank? USAS. So the 600 plus school districts in the state are on somewhat of a uniform accounting system, so that'll be helpful. So it'll be somewhat like plug and play. Once we get all the data into the right columns, it should not be too laborious on the folks here in the district. And as Matt mentioned, we're doing this at no cost to the Mentor schools, to the schools and the local districts. So over the past 4 or so years in the state treasurer's office, I voluntarily cut my budget every year I've been in office. We've saved about $6 million by voluntarily cutting the budget. And so we're going to take a fraction of those savings and use it to post the local government finances online. Any other questions? Please.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, this, I know you mentioned before that you kind of do it now where you post monthly. Will that be updated that often on this site, or is this a yearly type of update, or how will that work?
So, I was going to defer. It's really up to the local governments and the school districts. So we have the ability to post this as frequent as the school district wants to. So it's really going to be up to the folks here locally.
Well, our hope is to continue a monthly update to be as current as we can with the taxpayers. The Chief Financial Officer section of the Mentor Schools website contains a variety of financial information that's updated regularly. We post the annual financial audits, we post the annual financial statements. So our hope is that every month, as we're uploading all the financial information in addition to the checklist, that we'll be able to do a monthly update to keep it as current as we can for the interactive feature that's provided.
Any other questions? Usually somebody asks me how old I am. I mean, I say, come on, this guy looks like he's 19. And if I put on like jeans and a t-shirt, I could probably like fit in the hallways here, right?
Well, Matt's liking, I saw, finally someone looks younger
Yeah.
than him up here.
Yeah. Listen, I appreciate you having me here today. I'm really proud to stand here. I'm proud that the Mentor Schools is the first school district in the state, that it's a district here in Northeast Ohio. I appreciate you all being leaders. As I mentioned, you're going to hear me talking about the Mentor Schools all over the state of Ohio. So if you have family or friends in Cincinnati, Dayton, Wapakoneta, Athens, Toledo, anywhere in between, they'll hear me talking about the Mentor Schools, because what you're seeing here is an exhibition of leadership. Folks who are choosing to be leaders and really recognizing in a public way that taxpayers have a right to see how the money's being spent. And this initiative, it's all about power to the people. I'm a big believer that when government is big, the people are small, but when we can make government small and more efficient, we can make people big. And this is all about empowering everyday citizens, everyday taxpayers throughout our state to feel that they have the power to see the money, follow the money, and hold public officials accountable. About 3 weeks ago, there was a mayor's race in the city of Columbus. It'd been around 20 years since there was the incumbent mayor was not running for re-election. So it's the first time in about 20 years there was an open mayor's seat. So you'd think that pretty competitive, first time in a long time, 2 decades there had been an open seat. You'd think that it would just be a very high turnout. It was about 10% turnout. Wow. Think about that for a second. So 9 out of 10 people said, you know what, my vote doesn't matter, or the system's broken, or I'm just so discouraged, forget about it, I'm just not even going to go. You think about it, that's the most basic of fundamental rights, is exercising our right to vote, here in the greatest democracy in the world. And so when you have 9 out of 10 people in a city like Columbus, Ohio, who say it just doesn't matter, there's really a high level of cynicism. And so what I'm hoping that OhioCheckbook.com will do is take people who maybe yesterday felt powerless and tomorrow make them feel powerful, and help decrease cynicism in the system, and help people really have a little more confidence in the leaders who are trying to do the best they can on behalf of the citizens. So if we can accomplish that, I would say mission accomplished with this, and most important mission of all is empowering taxpayers to hold all of us accountable in our decision making. So listen, I appreciate you having me here this morning. You're my boss. The way I see my job is, I don't work for any of the politicians in Columbus. I don't work for any elected officials. My boss is the 11.5 million people of the state of Ohio. So feel free to call me anytime. Feel free to email me anytime. And please stay in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.